Yes, it's been like a week. I've seen Endgame twice, and now I'm finally ready to talk about it. Hey, I'm Amy, and welcome or welcome back. I know everybody has done their Endgame reviews twice over, both spoiler-free and with spoilers, but I wanted to watch this movie twice. One time to get the overall really feel of what's happening through my system, and then the second time to really sit down and look at it and think about it and just take in everything so I can do a real review. Plus, I wanted to get some stuff to do spoilers, so this video will have both a spoiler-free section and a spoiler section. So I'm going to talk about the spoilers first, then I'll give you a time code. Right when I'm done with that, it'll be here on the bottom of the screen of when to skip to the end to see what I gave the final score, even though we all probably know exactly what I'm going to do for that. So you can really just, watch this spoiler part, or spoiler-free part. No spoilers yet. So if you haven't seen it, even though it's been out for almost a week, let's talk about Avengers Endgame with as little spoilers as possible. I also have some tea here because it's kind of cold in LA and it's weird. So enjoy my winter Starbucks mug and let's get started. So this is the culmination of 10, nearly 11 years. Actually, it is by now probably 11 years, and this marks film 22, which is insane. That's like 2 films a year pretty much. Avengers and the MCU are a huge part of a lot of people's lives. Now, I personally do not know anything about the comics, but I have been a huge fan of the MCU since around Captain America the First Avenger. That's when I really started getting into the films, and I have seen pretty much all of them except for most of Iron Man 3. I've seen most of Iron Man 3 by now, but I have not seen The Incredible Hulk, so that is where I stand. So going into this, I was very excited. I was one of those people who spent 3 to 6 hours waiting for AMC website to work to get tickets, and oh boy, this was absolutely everything I wanted. Everything that happened in this film was just, it was fan servicey, but in a way that I really enjoyed. There are times when fan service is just very awkward and weird and you do not like it at all, like in, I guess a perfect example would be in Solo. A lot of what they were doing with Solo's backstory, like how he met Chewie. Like, I wanted to know how he met Chewie, but the way he met him, how he shortened his name to Chewie, how Han got his last name of Solo, a lot of that stuff, it just felt very fan servicey for the sake of fan service. But with this film, with Endgame, a lot of the ending in this, it did not feel fan servicey. It felt right. It felt like what we wanted to see. These people, these heroes that we have spent 11 years of our lives with, how we wanted them to finish the story and how we wanted the story to be carried out, and I absolutely love that. There are so many emotional roller coasters in this. I'm pretty sure I cried. Hold on, I wrote down the second watch. I wrote down every single time that I cried, both the first watch and the second watch. So combined, I cried
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times.
9 times, and then for the last hour of the movie. So be ready for that. There is one scene in particular that I will talk about in the spoiler section that really brought me to tears, and when I think about it, it still brings me to tears of happiness. I cried tears of sadness. Most of them were of sadness, but a lot of them were of happiness and of pride of these people, these characters that I have spent so much time with, and I'm starting to get a little choked up just thinking about them. And rewatching, after watching this, I watched Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Infinity War again after watching this film twice, and there are spots in all 3 of those films where I started crying again because of what I knew from this film. And not all of them were tears of sadness, they were tears of happiness. Actually, the only one that was sadness was the same reason I cried during Infinity War, was when Peter gets dusted. That's not a spoiler, it's just that happening. It felt like a stronger, more emotional connection now after having seen this than it was then, but I still cried when Peter got dusted in Infinity War the first time I saw it, and still do when I watch it before I had watched Endgame. And speaking of crying, I don't think I've cried this much in a film since the last Harry Potter, well, okay, Deathly Hallows Part 7. The 7th Harry Potter film, Deathly Hallows Part 1. I don't think I have cried this much in a film since then. I don't think that it beats out Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, because I literally cried the entire 2.5 hours of that film, and I do every single time I watch it, because that is another nearly 20 years of my life. It's actually, I think last year was 20 years. So that was like almost 15 years of my life that Harry Potter was a thing. So that one had a little bit stronger of a connection for me. But yes, two of the biggest parts of my life are pretty much over now. Harry Potter films, don't count Fantastic Beasts, and then the Avengers, but I do count all of the stuff that's coming next. Maybe another Captain Marvel movie. We got Far From Home coming out soon. Maybe another Ant-Man movie, and maybe another Guardians movie. Maybe another Thor movie, more Black Panther. I'm excited for all of that to come. We have the new Black Widow movie coming out. We have Disney Plus films about Vision and Loki and Hawkeye and so much other stuff to look forward to with this. While with Harry Potter, we really only have Fantastic Beasts, and I'm not excited about that. And kind of a final little thing is how many characters there are in this. There are so many characters, and the Russos did such a great job of making it not feel claustrophobic or overwhelming, and giving the characters enough screen time. So you get a great sense of each character, their story, and what they are going on to do. Overall, I think that is everything I can talk about. Not spoilery, so yeah. The time code right here is where I will go, where you can go skip to get my final score of the overall thing, even though you can probably guess exactly what I'm going to say. So is everybody gone? Anybody who does not want spoilers, there are going to be spoilers here. Let me take a sip of tea and we will have spoilers. So this is your last warning. Click away if you don't want spoilers, or pause this, go watch Endgame and come back. Spoilers. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Gonna go quickly through some of this because there is one scene in particular. Luna, no. Sorry. There's one scene in particular that I really want to talk about at length. So I'm going to go through a lot of the spoiler stuff I wanted to talk about right away. Most of it is the time travel stuff. Most of the fact that it is a time travel movie for the most part, and it doesn't get really convoluted and confusing. Most time travel movies do a lot of the times feel very just hard to understand, or there's a lot of different layers. The way the timeline works with this is you have this timeline to go on. It's pretty much a set timeline, and they go back, they grab the Infinity Stones, and because of Bruce's conversation with the Sorcerer Supreme, he knows that they have to bring them back, and that keeps them on the current timeline, and that's great. That makes it so easy and so less confusing than a lot of other time travel movies. So it doesn't make things as confusing and splitting off into different timelines, like when Thor takes the hammer, when him and Rocket are on Asgard talking to his mother, or let's see, the Cap versus Cap thing. That is a little weird to me. I don't know if that's going to disrupt anything else within that timeline. And Tony talking to his dad when him and Cap go back to the 1970s. In the end, it all feels like it works itself out. There was an article that I read today from the Hollywood Reporter. If I can find it, I will link it in the description, because it is a great look at the final scene with Cap and Peggy getting their dance together finally. I guess technically it's Steve and Peggy, because it's not Captain America anymore. Sam's Captain America. There was an article talking about how the dance with Peggy and who Peggy's family is later on. Like, Cap goes and takes all the stones and Thor's hammer back to where they are supposed to be and sets the timeline right. And then he goes back to the 1940s, probably right after his disappearance, and reconnects with Peggy. And then they get married and start a family, because Peggy never really says who her husband is. She never talks about who she gets married, and any pictures of her and her children on her bedside table during Winter Soldier are just her and her kids. There's no husband there. The article talked a little bit about how the husband that Peggy never really talked about, it could be Steve, and we just didn't know because we didn't see any pictures. And she also has a picture of Steve on her desk in the 70s where she would be about 50 years old. So it's like, if she was married and had kids by then, why would she have a picture of Steve Rogers on her desk? I don't know. The article did go into some detail about how maybe Steve, his future was, this was always the future. The future is impermanent. Bruce talks about that, and him going back in time, like, this was always how it was supposed to be. His future was always for him to go back, return the Infinity Stones, return Thor's hammer, and then reconnect with Peggy, and he is Peggy's husband. And that is so cute, and it made me tear up while reading that article. So there is this one scene in particular during the final fight with past Thanos that I really want to delve into. So there is a bunch of other notes that I have on here, and if you really want to see my thoughts, I took these are 2 pages worth of notes that I took while watching this. So if you really want to see my thoughts, it will be up on my Patreon and you can check it out there. But I really wanted to talk about the scene during the final battle where all of the women come and protect Peter, and oh my god, I cried. I'm starting to tear up, getting emotional just thinking about it. Anytime I think about this scene, I get a little bit emotional, because it's the epitome of what makes this franchise amazing over any of the other superhero franchises. There are so many strong women, and I did an entire video about all the amazing females in the MCU. I picked my top 5 of them, and there were so many more I could have picked from that I didn't even list in that video. And I need to change that up entirely, pretty much. I need to make a top 10. Every single one of them is number 1 to me right now, because that scene was just so beautiful, and I absolutely loved. I loved it so much that I put it in my notes twice. I put it in during my first watch, and I put it in during my second watch, and even said next to it, yes, this is in here twice, because I loved that scene. I loved all of the women coming together to protect the youngest Avenger, who, when Tony dies, he just looks so incredibly tired and beat up and scared, and having all of these women be the strong person to come up against Thanos' entire army just to protect this gauntlet is amazing. And even there's a scene where Scarlet Witch saves T'Challa from Thanos. All of these powerful women, and it really shows a great step that the MCU is taking to make women more of the forefront, especially after Captain Marvel. They had filmed these movies before Captain Marvel was even filmed. Brie filmed her scenes for for Endgame, actually, before she'd even started filming for Captain Marvel. So it's like, they couldn't have seen how powerful Captain Marvel was, like, not the character, but the film, how powerful that was to women. My coworkers and I had a discussion. We actually had a little bit of a fight about this scene. One of my coworkers said that it felt very forced when he watched it, while myself and my other coworkers thought it felt very natural. It felt like it was supposed to be there, and it really, really worked. I just ended up pretty much yelling at him because he was like, he really had an issue with the Brie Larson thing, and I was just like, you know what? It's not about the fact that she is excluding white males, and this is not really a discussion I want to get into right now, but it's not about the fact that she is excluding white males, it's that it's a different opinion, and having these females being really strong and really protective over, I mean, I would consider Peter Parker, Spider-Man, a strong boy. He's a boy still, he's only 15. But having them show this protectiveness over him was really powerful and really moving to me, and it did not feel forced. It felt like the way things should be, because women are just as strong as men. They are just as capable as men, and having this in there shows girls, shows like people of color, even people of different sexual orientations, that they are just as capable and just as revered and just as good as everybody else, that they don't need to be looked down upon or pushed aside in any they don't I can't talk right now, I'm just so overcome. They don't need to be put into any specific box. They are perfect just the way they are, and I don't think that's necessarily the message that they were trying to send, but that's what I took from it, and that is just as good, because film and your opinion is really your own thing. How you perceive something is your own perception, your own opinion, and I think that is what the beauty of film and art is. And I think I just went on a completely weird tangent that did have anything to do with anything, but I stand by everything I said. Yep, so I think spoiler people, or people who are skipping the spoilers, hi, welcome back. This is the part where I give you my rewatch score for this, and you probably already know what it is, and it is going to be adding this to my collection. I already have it pre-ordered, so that's my score. And I know everyone is probably like super over the moon about this, or everyone is probably, you know what, I don't care about Endgame anymore. Detective Pikachu comes out in a week, so there we go. But let me know your thoughts if you are still watching. Actually, you know what? If you're still watching, no context, right at the very end of your what you think of Endgame, or, you know, at the end of your comment, or just leave this without any context whatsoever. Just put, let's see. Without any context whatsoever, just put your favorite. Don't even say my favorite. Your favorite female Avenger. No, I already did that with my last video. Just put your favorite Avenger. It can be anybody from Endgame, Infinity War, Black Panther, Guardians, Thor, anybody. It can be anybody who is in Infinity War, anybody who is in Endgame. Just leave your favorite Avenger, no context, if you have watched this far, because this is probably going to be a pretty long video, and I have some fun editing coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you watching through this nearly 30-minute video. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!